Hello and welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So I have here another inks comparison video, and this is Cult Pen's exclusive Summer Inks Comparison number 2 video. So I think with that, let's swap up some of these inks. So I get a lot of questions on how I do these ink videos. So I decided I would add this to the front of each of the ink videos. I put links in the descriptions, but I know some of you watch this on TVs or mobile devices, so you don't get to see this. So first off, the paper is the number one question I get asked. What paper do I use for these ink comparison videos? So this is the original Tomoe River. This is 52 GSM, and it is the white, not the cream, the white. Where possible, I try to go for the white because the cream can actually change the color of the ink just a little bit. So this is Tomoe River 52 GSM in the white. A lot of people get confused as well because I have what looks to be a grid on this page, and it's actually an Oxford Optik pad. These are the pads that I actually use when I'm writing my writing samples for pen reviews or in my currently ink. So they have these little squares up here. I just use that because it's a good guide for me when I put this very thin sheet of Tomoe River over. I can actually see squares, so it helps me write a little bit sort of straight on the page. Not always, but sometimes it does. The other thing that I also have is I have a bottle of water, plain water, and I dip my nib in here. So for consistency, I use the same fountain pen, or I guess it's not a fountain pen, it's using a fountain pen nib though. This is a 3D printed pen from William Shakour in the UK. So he prints this material 3D, and it has a number 8 size Bock nib which I can unscrew, and you can see there. So it is just a dip pen holder for a number 8 size Bock nib, and the idea is I want to have consistency with the writing sample. So I use this, I dip it in the ink, I write, and then I will dip it in here and I will rinse the nib off several times and I will dry it, and then at that point I will then go on to do the next ink swatch and the next writing sample. So there you have it. That's how I do my ink swatches. So I just wanted to show you that here. Now on to the ink comparison video. So the first ink here is Cult Pen's Grey Skies No More. Now this has been an ink that I've been using somewhat recently. It is an interesting grey for sure. And we'll do an ink swatch here. And you'll see there, it is a bit of a lightish grey. I'd say maybe a little bit more on, I want to say blue, but maybe not actually. Maybe a little bit more greenish. We'll do a second pass over the top half just to show the difference between a wet or broad or dry or narrow writing nib. And this is Cult Pen's, and it's Grey Skies No More. And I think that's probably what certainly a lot of us in the UK actually wish for when summer is coming around. We don't want grey skies. We want lovely blue skies and not as many clouds. The next ink here is Diamine Cult Pens, and it's Caribbean Green. So we'll do an ink swatch. And I'd have to say, from what I'm seeing so far, this is the first time I've seen this ink, and I'd have to say that that probably is more Caribbean watercolor. So we'll do a second pass over the top half just to show the difference between a wet or a broad or a dry and a narrow writing nib. So this is Cult Pens, and it's Caribbean Green. But that is certainly an interesting colour there. Starting to like that. It's a nice pastel pale colour. The next ink here, Cult Pens exclusive, is a dip in the pool. So you can kind of see where they're coming from, is that somebody goes to the Caribbean or goes to maybe to Spain and goes to a pool and sits alongside it. Just dips their toes in the pool. So we'll do an ink swatch. And yeah, I actually like this blue colour. It's actually quite nice. Gets a little bit pale down towards the bottom there. We'll do a second pass over the top half, just to show the difference between a wet or a broad, or a dry and a narrow writing nib. And this is Cult Pens. And it's a dip in the pool. But I have to say, actually, that's not a bad pastel blue. And then the last ink on this inks comparison video is the Cult Pens exclusive, a toe in the ocean. So you've got a dip in the pool, and now you've got a toe in the ocean. So we'll do an ink swatch here. Yeah, so this is definitely more of a darker blue. But saying that, it's still quite a pastel pale colour. So we'll do a second pass over the top half, just to show the difference between a wet or a broad and a dry and a narrow writing nib. So this is Cult Pens. And it's a toe in the ocean. That is an interesting colour. Again, I want to say it's bordering towards a blue-black, but I think that maybe you could probably call it a denim colour. So I think let's now take a look at these inks now that they have dried. So the first ink here is Cult Pens Grey Skies No More. And yes, that's something we all chant when it comes to summer months. We want the summer months here, and we don't want grey skies. We want nice blue skies and sunshine. So I think this is a good named ink. I do think this is a little bit more of a graphite coloured ink, a little bit on the lighter grey, a little bit on the slight green tinge to grey. I'm not necessarily a fan of blue greys, so I would say this is a little bit more on the green grey. Can you see the difference between a wet or a broad or a dry or a narrow writing nib? You definitely can. A very huge difference in contrast here between the darkness and the lightness of the ink. Is there shading going on? There definitely is shading, and let me show this up close. There's definitely shading going on in that pooled area. You can see splotches of it everywhere. You can also see it here as well. Can you see shading on the writing sample? You can a little bit. There is a little bit of shading there. And is there any sheen going on? I want to say yes. These lighter areas are definitely areas of sheen. It's not a punchy sheen. It's not a gold sheen. You're not seeing a really punchy sheen, but it's starting to sheen a little bit. So you might find you see a bit of sheen if you left the ink in a converter or a pen, inked up for many months, and you let part of the water evaporate out of the ink, making it a little bit more viscousy, a thicker ink. Then maybe you might see a little bit of sheen there. The next ink here is Cult Pens Caribbean Green, and this is a lovely pastel green. You can definitely see the difference between a wet or a broad and a dry and a narrow writing nib. There's a huge difference in colour there, like with Grey Skies No More. Caribbean Green, you're seeing that there too. Is there any shading going on? There definitely is shading going on in that pooled area. Not a huge amount, but you are seeing some. And then, is there any sheen? I am seeing a little bit of glistening like I am on Grey Skies No More. So I want to say it is trying to sheen a little bit, but I'm not really seeing it there. So again, probably not going to see any sheen from it, but I am just seeing a slight sort of difference there. The next ink here, Cult Pens, a dip in the pool. You can definitely see the difference between a wet or broad or a dry or a narrow writing nib. There definitely is a huge difference there. You can also see shading, a lot more shading going on in that pooled area. And I'll show you this up close so you can see it there. Is there shading in the writing sample? Definitely there is some shading there in the writing sample. Is it sheening? Again, I'd say no, it's really not. Again, like some of the darker edges here, it's trying to sheen, but it's just not able to do so. I wouldn't really expect it on a light ink like these, to be honest. And then the last ink here is a Cult Pen's a toe in the ocean, not a dip in the pool, a toe in the ocean. So can you see the difference between a wet and a broad and a dry and a narrow writing nib? You definitely can. There's a huge difference in colour here. Obviously, the writing sample is in a wet nib. Is there shading going on? There is again shading in that pooled area, and if I bring that up close, you'll see it there. You'll see some shading in the writing sample as well. And again, I don't know. I want to say it's trying to sheen. I think it probably. I'm seeing a little bit of a silvery color there, but it's difficult to say really whether or not it's sheen or not. Again, I wouldn't really be expecting sheen on a pale color like that. So that's my Cult Pens exclusive summer inks comparison number 2 video. If there are any of these inks that you like, let me know in the comments below. Likewise, if there are any other inks you'd like me to check out, then do let me know in the comments below. So that's my Cult Pens exclusive summer inks comparison number 2 video. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye bye.